Hello friend, John Dalton here, Further Emergence podcast, where we go into love, consciousness and the mystery. And in this episode we're going into changing the world, the feeling of going around in circles, finding glimmers all around you, spiritual awakening, breaking old patterns, seeing that you are not your emotions, the power of perspective, love is never wasted, how old trauma can make it hard to see current abuse, claiming joy, broadening your perspective, and the power of kindness. Now, when it comes to reality, sometimes it's very scary. Just like a very scary movie. But the thing is, you made the movie. I made the movie. We all make our own movies. And what kind of ending do we want? Do we want the terrible ending or do we want the happy ending? And you might say, well, what difference does it make? What I want. It makes a big difference. Because you have to sort of sit in your power as the generator of this whole thing and do your bit. And your bit is to focus on the future you do want and to look for evidence of it. Look for evidence of goodness, look for evidence of kindness, look for evidence of growing consciousness, because it's there. It's there to be seen. And if you focus on it, you start to see it. You start to see it everywhere. That's how you can help. That's your bit that you can do. And then as you do that, you sort of begin to, particularly if you're looking for the evidence, you start to see it and the world starts to change. And our collective kind of illusion begins to change the way we want it to go. So you're not powerless, you're very powerful. And you can change it. You can change the world. So you probably had the experience of, you deal with something, let's say money, and you think, great, I've dealt with money now. And then you deal with sex. And then you deal with power. And then you deal with loss and abandonment and loneliness and so on. You think, oh, that's great. And then you realize you're dealing with money again. You're like, oh, I thought I sorted that out. That's if you think of it as going around a circle. Well, what's actually happening is you need to sort of turn the circle on its side and see that it's actually a spiral. And that running up the spiral is themes. So, money, you go around and then you could get back to money, but you're dealing with it at a deeper level. You've gone deeper down into the spiral. And then, you're dealing with sex at a deeper level, power and so on. And then you go around and then you're back at money again, but it's always deeper. And then that takes away that feeling of like, oh God, I'm just going around in a circle here. I thought I dealt with all of this. If you get this thing of a spiral, then it's a bit easier to understand what's happening. And it's always deeper in consciousness, deeper into the mystery. Now, let's have a look at the memes on the Further Emergence Instagram feed. The first one is of two circles, and above the first circle it's empty, it says less, and then underneath it says doing things that you don't align with. And then the next circle, above it says more, and it's glowing beautiful red and orange like the sun, and it says doing things that bring you joy. This could sound like the worst kind of millennial affectation, but it's actually true. Particularly if you're older, because we were conditioned not to think like this. We were conditioned to just get on with things and to not be so touchy, not to be so sensitive. I encourage you to be sensitive. I encourage you to see that if something isn't in alignment with you, it shrinks you. It makes you feel less. And when something is in alignment with you, it makes you feel bigger and more expansive. And it's great. And you have to allow yourself to register what's going on. Because we have these old conditionings of put up with things, get on with it, just keep calm and keep going, all that kind of stuff. which there is a time for that, and we are brilliant at it. My generation and older and even younger, we're brilliant at that, just head down and get on with it. But it's like the difference between surviving and thriving. If you want to thrive, you have to be sensitive to what's going on inside you, and you have to be open to hearing what feels like it's in alignment with you, in you. And God forbid, feel a bit of joy. Allow yourself to feel the joy and go, this is good. This brings up joy in me. So I'm going to do more of this, and I'm going to do less of that stuff, because that stuff, when it's not, in alignment with me, which is, the language is a bit, but anyway, it's less. The joy is less. It goes away. And my life is about getting as much joy as I can. Not in a hedonistic way, but it's there for you. And the more you focus on it, the more it'll come up.
The next one says, our past experiences of trauma can make us exceedingly tolerant of pain. Just because we can endure a relationship doesn't mean we have to.
That's the thing. When you have trauma when you're a kid, it becomes so much part of your inner landscape that you don't notice it. And when you're treated badly as a kid, you don't think it's unusual. And then you get into relationships and you are treated badly as well. And it takes so much effort to be able to begin to see it and go, this behavior is not okay. And even when you're saying it, you feel like you're slightly mad, because it's been so much part of the way you see things. That's why other people can look at your behavior and go, that's not okay, And you go, really? Are you sure? And then you start making all the excuses that you made for whoever it was that treated you badly when you were a kid. You make exactly the same excuses for whoever it is that's treating you badly now. And it's one of the real benefits of having an external perspective on how you see things. That's why, different forms of therapy are so popular. Is really the therapist is just helping you to kind of go, that's not actually okay. And just because you can endure it doesn't mean you should or you have to.
So the next one is, it starts off with a circle, and it says, I noticed a pattern, meaning going in a circle. And then the image below it is the circle is open, the pattern is broken, and what it says is, so I made a choice.
I've seen that lots of times in my own life and in other people's lives. You sort of go along, and you reach a point and you've got a decision to make. And you make a certain decision, and you could go straight on, but you make a certain decision and you go off on a big loop all the way around until you get back to the same place again. And you get another chance to make a different decision. And if you make a different decision, you can continue on. So I've seen this before, this idea of looping. And whenever I'm at a particular point and I kind of feel like I want to go in the direction of familiarity, I remember the loop and I avoid it.
The next one says, the love you gave was never a waste.
It's so tempting with love to want to be defensive and to want to try and protect yourself, and if it doesn't work out, to sort of feel like, well, what was that for? What was the point? I gave so much. I loved so much, and it didn't work out, and they betrayed me, or they left me, or whatever. The thing is, focusing on it that way is just going to make you miserable, because you didn't love for love's sake. You loved in the hope that you get something back. And that's not how love works, in my experience anyway. When you love for love, meaning it's in you, you want to help it come out. And to be able to help it come out is a beautiful thing. But it's in there, it's inside you all the time. It's not something that I'm going to give this love to you and then you're going to give this love back to me. That always ends in disaster, because you're giving or loving for the wrong reason. You want something back, and you're missing the fact that it's the love coming through you, being able to express the love, that's the gift. That's the beauty. That's the great thing about it. It's not a transactional kind of thing. It's more like singing, you know? It's like singing in the shower. You don't do that for anybody. You just do it for the sheer pleasure of doing it. And it's the same with love. And it only gets complicated when you start to sort of feel like it's transactional and you should get something back for it. And that's nothing to do with boundaries or, you know, bad behavior or gaslighting or any of the other things that we get up to with each other. It's not about that. But in terms of love, like this idea of it was a waste. I gave all this love and it was a waste. It's never a waste. Never try and protect yourself with love. Just give, just love, 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 because it's so enjoyable to do it. And it's all inside you, and let it out.
The next one is a little bit shocking when you see it first because it's two photographs. The first one is of a little boy and it looks like he's got a boot on his head, or not like crushing him, but just on his head, and it says before spiritual awakening. Then the next photograph, it's the same boy, same boot, but you've pulled back a little bit. And you can see that it's actually his hand is inside the boot, so he's kind of putting the boot on his own head. And it says after spiritual awakening. So before spiritual awakening, boot on the head. After spiritual awakening, you realize it's your own hand inside the boot.
Well, this one is brilliant because it certainly was my experience of feeling like there was something fundamentally wrong with me, and then getting enlightened and realizing, no, it was my own. I was on I didn't describe it as having a boot on my face, but it's funny, this little picture. But for me, it was like being on a hook. I didn't realize I was on a hook until I took myself off the hook. And once I took myself off that hook, the hook disappeared and it never came back. And that was 96, so what are we? That's many, many years ago. Now, the hook that I was on was this very core feeling that there was something wrong with me, that I was lacking in some way, or I was fundamentally flawed, or if I was around an enlightened person, I would feel like I was less than them, or that they had something that I didn't have. And then after I got enlightened, I just didn't have that anymore. It was just gone. And this feeling of like, yeah, there's something fundamentally wrong with me, or I'm missing something, just disappeared. Wasn't there anymore. So I can really relate to this picture. It's a little bit shocking when you see it first, but you know, when it pulls back and you see that he has his own hand in the boot, that I totally relate to, and it's beautiful.
The next one is kind of complicated and you kind of have to look at it a bit. It's a circle that's divided down the middle, and on one side of it you've got lots of circles with colors on them, and one of the circles is anxious, the other is overwhelmed, the other is insecure, and the other is vulnerable, but they don't cross the midline. And on the emotion side it says you are not your emotions, and then the other side it says you are the one who feels them.
It takes a lot of speed on the inside to realize that you are not your emotions, that you have emotions, but you are not them. Because when you have emotions, they sort of cover you. You sort of feel like, oh my God, my baby left me, or why did that guy say that thing to me, or why did I say that to the other person, and you know, I'm worried about something, and it sort of covers you, and you sort of feel like there's no separation. You and the emotion are the same thing, but you're not, because you think about the worst kind of emotion you have, grief, heartbreak, worry, all those kind of things. They all disappear every night in deep dreamless sleep. That's a great reference to come back to, because they're gone. They're not there. They're not here anymore. But you are, because you return. You return in the morning. And when you wake up, before you remember all the heartbreak and the pain, you're just present. That's who you are. And beginning to get a bit of separation from your emotions is really helpful. Meditation is great for that, of course. I'm going to advocate meditation, because you begin to be able to get to the side of it. But even just changing your language from I am angry to I have anger in me. In the Irish language, it's constructed in that way as well. You don't say I am hungry, you say tá uckers orm, meaning there is hunger on me. And it's a better way of thinking about emotions. I'm not the emotion, I'm having the emotion.
The next one is two pictures. The top picture looks like a woman's cleavage in a bra. And then the picture below is you've pulled back and you realize that it's not a cleavage, it's actually a man's bottom. And he has the cups of the bra cupping his butt cheeks. So you can see that. And what it says is, just remember, the media is only showing you part of the actual story. Oh my God, that's so funny. And it's so true, you know, because we're only ever presented with this small little window of reality, and then, you know, we don't get all the facts. And we're encouraged to see, you know, this is it, you know, this is just a lovely pair of breasts and this lovely cleavage, you know. And it's really like some guy's bum, you know, in a pretend bra. I mean, it's so funny. And it like the amount of response I got to this on social media was a lot, because it you know, just resonates. We all know it. We all know, you know, we just know it personally. You talk to somebody and they say, oh, she said this and she said that. And then you talk to her and she's like, oh, he said this and he said that. And you're kind of like, it's not exactly, I'm not getting the full picture here. We never get the full picture. But it's conveyed with such certainty and authority. It's like I was talking about Walter Cronkite a couple of weeks ago, you know. Beautiful, great, wonderful, but set us up to sort of believe that these things are true, instead of we have to find out for ourselves. We're all in this big process of taking back authority, of taking back our own authority and going, you know, I am the one, I am the arbiter of what the truth is here. I have to find it for myself. And yes, that's very chaotic and very messy, but that's the process that we're in. We're all coming into our own authority. Next one is very simple. It just says, your perspective is your power.
So you're on a bus and there's a young family on the bus with the father, and the kids are going crazy, making all sorts of noise, running around, being lunatics. And after a while, you can't take it anymore, and you go up to the father, who seems to be in a kind of a trance, and you sort of say, excuse me, could you like do something with your children, please? They're very disruptive. And the father kind of snaps out of it and goes, oh, sorry, we just come from the hospital. Their mother is, you know, we just got a terminal diagnosis, sorry. And instantly everything changes. And you realize, oh my God, the poor man. And you end up reading stories to the kids and whatever. Because in that instant, your perspective changed. And you went from seeing the situation in one way to seeing it in a completely different way. And there's great power in that if you will just trust it. Because we kind of think, oh, reality is set. You know, it's not set. Like you could say the reality of those kids on the bus, that was set. They're all, you know, all little troublesome kids. But it wasn't set, because when you got different information which changed your perspective, or you changed your perspective because of it, it all changed. And suddenly you were taking care of those kids. And you can apply that to everything, because it's so easy to look at in the world. Bear in mind, like, the media is trying to get you to be depressed. It's not doing it consciously. Okay, maybe it is doing it consciously. But either way, like, if you know that's what's happening, then you have to consciously change your perspective and see the world in a beautiful way. Because the world is beautiful. I mean, I'm surrounded by beautiful nature here. You know, okay, it's raining, but it's beautiful. You know, if I was in the middle of the Sahara, this rain would be beautiful. The fact that it rains in Ireland a lot, well, that's a different thing. But there is great beauty around, there's great goodness around, there's great goodness in people around. You just have to see it, and it's so important that you know that your perspective is so powerful, because it adds to our collective perspective on things. So the more you look for the evidence of the good, the more you'll see it, and the more good there is.
The next one is a little guide to glimmers. Glimmers are the opposite of triggers. They are tiny moments of awe. They spark joy and evoke inner calm. They have a positive effect on our mental health. They are micro moments causing tiny mood shifts. They send cues of safety to our nervous system. They bring feelings of ease and contentment. Our body responds with positive energy. They allow us to feel hope when lost. Our nervous system is strengthened by them. They can help increase our well-being. Once we start embracing them, it can become a beautiful way to see the world around you.
That's the thing about glimmers, they're relatively new. It's a relatively new phenomenon. I only heard about it. I mean, we all know about triggers. When you get triggered, that's easy to understand. We're all familiar with that. So you have to kind of do a bit of work when it comes to glimmers. You have to kind of look for it. And that kind of ties in with that thing of looking for evidence for, the more you look for evidence, the more you see it. You know, it's like that thing when you're thinking about buying a red Ford, you know, you just see nothing but red Fords that day and you've never seen one before. It's kind of the same when you start to look for the glimmers, you see them everywhere. And what starts off as, well, okay, a glimmer is just a magical thing. It has to be a magical thing. Suddenly becomes, no, it can be this other thing, and it starts to expand and you see more and more of it. And it's that thing of looking for evidence. If you want more glimmers, if you want more magic, beauty, love in your life, you have to look for evidence of it. And then the more you look for it, the more you see it and the more it expands.
And the last one is a quote from Aldous Huxley. It says, "After 45 years of research and study, the best advice I can give to people is to be a little kinder to each other."
Well, it's our old friend Aldous Huxley again, the tread lightly, darling guy. And it's so nice, this idea that after many years of research, 45 years of research, the thing is to be kind to each other. Simple thing. Aldous Huxley spent his whole life researching this thing, and what he arrived at was, be kinder to each other. If you just be kinder to each other, that's the most helpful thing you can do. And it's that simple. You know, it's not complicated, it's just be kinder. Bring it up, let it come up inside you to be kinder. Don't pay any attention to the number of times you fail at being kind. Just focus on when you're able to do it, when you're able to be kind. And there's always another moment, that you can be kind in. That's the great thing about time, is that there's always another bit of time. So, take the tip from Aldous and be kind. That's all there is to it. All right, that's all I have for you this time. I trust you're well. I trust you're of good cheer. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.